I think I can speak for all of Reds country. Joey Votto, thank you.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the Laurent Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! He did! Reds win! Reds win! Line into right field. Genius, the first Red ever with 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Does it have a chance? The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed the no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
All right, Nick. A losing edition of Chatterbox Reds and a losing series, which is the most disappointing one. I think there's a lot of people that are frustrated right now. I don't blame them. I also think there's a lot of people that have questions in regards to some of the moves that were made today. Although I'm sure we'll get into it. Don't know if it affected the outcome, but certainly one could argue that it would have. It's Father's Day, by the way. So happy Father's Day, Nick.
Happy Father's Day, Trace. Did you have a good day?
You know what? Like, obviously the Reds winning today would have made it like a great day. But as many people already know this, if you watch the show long enough, you know that I like golf. I thought we had like the pinnacle golf event that you could possibly have today. For those that don't like golf or don't care about golf, you probably could care less, and that's fine. This is not a golf show, but it was a great U.S. Open, so I did enjoy that, and that kind of got me back into a better spirits.
Good.
But kids and all that today, it was ho-hum. It was good. Went and watched a little bit of a little city championship golf tournament in my hometown. Same guy that won it the last 4 years won it again, believe it or not. But other than that, just a long day of golf and watching the Reds semi-implode. I don't know if you'd call it that. Would you call it that?
I wouldn't say implode. I mean, yeah. I think the maybe a fringe implode.
Okay. I don't know if
Fringe
there's a word in the
implosion.
dictionary for a fringe implosion.
Yeah.
But if there is one, that's what you're trying to say. All right. Well, the only thing that I know how to do is do the show that we always do, which is we'll do a box score recap. We'll do the deep drive of the day, and then we'll get into it. I don't want to say I'm speechless. I just yeah, we'll get into it. Box score recap presented by Nick Kirby.
All right, Reds taking on the Milwaukee Brewers, rubber game of a 3-game series in Milwaukee. Frankie Montas going up against Colin Ray. Second batter of the game, Elly De La Cruz spoke the ball down the right field line, 104 off the bat, and he turned it into a triple. Jeimer Candelario then just missed a home run, but it was plenty deep enough for a sac fly. Quickly 1-0 Reds. Top of the third, Elly De La Cruz walked. Elly then stole second base, and then Elly scored on a pickoff attempt that went into the outfield from Colin Ray. 2-0 Reds. Top of the fourth, Spencer Steer crushed a solo home run to left center field. 3-0 Reds. Frankie Montas had only allowed one hit through the first 4 innings, but the Brewers were able to get back-to-back hits off him to lead off the bottom of the fifth. They scratched across a run to make it 3-1. Montas would come back out in the 6th inning, only at 76 pitches, give a weak single to William Contreras. Then he walked Christian Yelich. David Bell brought in Lucas Sims, who had a 2.04 ERA since April 19th. But unfortunately, Reds killer Willy Adames unloaded on him for a 3-run bomb to put the Brewers up 4-3. It was Adames' 14th career home run against the Reds. He doesn't have more than 10 against anyone else. Sims did strike out 3 batters to get out of the 6th without any further damage. Reds left 2 runners on base in the 7th. Brewers made 2 great defensive plays in the inning as well. Brewers would scratch across another run in the bottom of the 7th on a squeeze play from Christian Yelich against Sam Moll to put the Brewers up 5-3. In the top of the 8th, Elly De La Cruz capped off a big series against the Brewers offensively with a solo home run, hit 113 off the bat. That made it a 5-4 game. Reds would strand 2 more runners on base on, you guessed it, another great defensive play from the Brewers when center fielder Blake Perkins made a nice snag on a ball hit 109 off the bat from Jonathan India. Nick Martinez retired all 5 batters he faced to keep the score 5-4 going into the 9th. Then the top of the 9th, Stuart Fairchild reached on a very rare error from Willy Adames. Fairchild was able to get to second base on the air. Elly De La Cruz was then intentionally walked with 2 outs to bring up Santiago Espinal. Espinal had pinch run for Candelario the inning prior. Espinal singled. It looked initially like he was going to score Stuart Fairchild easily with 2 outs, but it was hit right at the center fielder Blake Perkins, who was playing in, and he fired a bullet home to get Fairchild out for a crushing 5-4 loss for the Cincinnati Reds. Reds fall to 34-37 on the season.
All right, we did have a deep drive of the day. Thanks in part to Spencer Steer. Could have been Elly, but he went with Spencer Steer. Shout out to Spencer, 8th home run of the year. It was 103.7 off the bat, 397 feet. It gave the Reds a 3-0 lead, and their win probability, close your ears, 82.4%. We all know that would be 0% at the end of the day. Deep Drive of the Day is sponsored by Deep South Commodities. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. And thank you to John and his support of our show and our community, for that matter. All right, let's jump right into it. It's just like, here's the rant of the day. You ready? You fan however you want to fan. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like the idea of thinking that you should be this way or that way when it comes to fandom. I would just say, like, whatever it is, stick with it, pick it, stay in that lane, and ride it out, you know? But, like, we don't always have to find blame for somebody being the reason as to why the Reds lost every single game. And it's like, I don't know, where do you pick the blame? Like, if you polled everybody coming out of American Family Field today with Reds gear on and asked them who lost the game, like, I could say maybe 3 or 4 different answers would be semi-appropriate. And it's like, the Brewers also made some plays. Like, I think that there are big things that happen in games that are so minute that most people probably don't even care to mention it. But Christian Yelich had a great at-bat. Like, he had a great at-bat. He fouled off some good pitches. The home run that Sims gave up, you can say whatever you want about Sims. I'm not here to defend him. You've heard what I said before. I was the one that went out and made a joke about how Lucas Sims always seems to give up big home runs. And then obviously there's stats that kind of would deem that maybe not totally true, but it does feel that way. I don't know what stats say, but my point in saying all that is I will at least be fair to Sims in saying that it was a good pitch. Like, if you watch the game and you see the pitch, that's like an 83 or 84 mile an hour slider or whatever the pitch. Again, if he throws a sweeper, I don't give a damn what you want to call it. It was an off-speed pitch, perfectly located at the bottom of the zone, and you got to give him credit for what happened. And it's frustrating, yes, but the Reds were like 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position today, Nick. Okay? We want to blame Fairchild? Blame Fairchild. But TJ Friedl could have knocked him in. Stevenson could have led the inning off with a double. I don't know. Stuart Fairchild's probably not standing on second base if he wasn't fast because Adames doesn't rush the throw. So, I seem frustrated, but like I'm frustrated by the fact that it's like every time we try to come up with a solution as to why we lost this or why we lost that, sometimes close your ears. I know people don't like hearing these. Sometimes the other team's just better than you are. They're just better. They make winning plays. There's a reason they've won 40+ games, and we're 3 games under 500. You want to blame the manager? You can blame the manager a little bit. That's fine. But it's a collective effort. It's everybody. The Brewers made some plays today, and they have good pitching. Like they're good. And this week, Nick, we've played 2 really good teams. We played the Guardians. We played the Brewers. What we finished? 2-3. 2-3. This team 3 weeks ago was terrible. Am I going to sit here and say that like we should throw a parade because we competed with these good teams and oh, look at us? No. What I'm also going to say, as somebody that's usually pretty like pessimistic in nature, this is like the Reds deserve to win one of the 2 games that they lost, in my opinion. Having said that, if they continue to play this way for the rest of the year, I feel pretty good about it. I'll leave it at that. I don't know what you make of the Sims situation. I know Montas wasn't very high in his pitch count. He also kind of, I don't know. It's just funny because if Sims throws that pitch, he rolls over a ground ball. It has nothing to do with Sims, by the way. It's everything to do with the hitter. Then all of a sudden, nobody's in trouble. No one's an idiot. And kumbaya, the Reds are great. Did I get all that right for the most part or no?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I agree. If the Reds played the way they played these last 5 games, minus maybe some of the defense on Friday, the game they actually won this weekend, they'll have a very good rest of the year, in my opinion. I know everyone wants to go to Fernando Cruz, but my God, you're going to run this guy into the ground. You had to get 12 outs either way.
Yeah.
Fernando Cruz wasn't getting 12 outs.
No.
So he went to Lucas Sims first. Sims hadn't pitched as much. You also had already gotten through the heart of their order. So if you want to use Fernando Cruz, you'd probably want to save him for the time it goes through the heart of their order again.
Right.
And so, like you said, it was a pitch on the black. I don't know what the scouting report is to Willy Adames. Maybe the scouting report says, hey, throw him a first pitch breaking ball. And maybe Willy Adames just made a great swing. I mean, sometimes you have to give him credit. When Elly De La Cruz hits a home run, we don't go, oh, my God,
right,
what was that pitcher doing, right? We say, oh, good job, Elly De La Cruz. It goes both ways. So, this is not anywhere close. This isn't even remotely close to the team that we saw lose some games during that losing streak. The team that we saw lose games during that losing streak, that the offense was struggling, they'd have, 3 or 4 hard hit balls all night. Like, there was
Correct.
nothing. Reds today had 11 hard hit balls. What did we count up yesterday? It was 16. I think it just didn't go their way the last 2 days. But I overall, I feel pretty optimistic about the way this team played this week. I'm not going to, like you said, again, we don't have to go overboard and be like, yeah, I feel great about it because, yeah, it sucks to lose. But if this team continues to play like they played over the last week, over the last couple weeks, Reds are going to be in a very good shape at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, the last 2 nights, somebody sent me a DM on Twitter of an account that they were trying to promote. They're a you know how I am with the analytics, but they're a data scientist at I don't know, some big company I seen. Long story short, he sent me an account to follow, and it's a meter of basically how lucky teams get, and it's just based off of like when their hits come and when they don't. So the concept, I guess, on their end, which I don't know if I totally believed, is that you don't really get to pick and choose when your hits come. They just come because of the way it's scattered throughout a game. The Reds were they deserved to win, quote unquote, is what they have on here. 85%. The Brewers 10%. Tie 5%. So, I guess my point in saying all that is like it's not like the Reds are squandering games away. At least I don't feel that way. I just hope they continue to play the way that they've played of recent, and I think that they'll continue to find success. Let's jump into the Fairchild thing. I don't know if that's real. Is that on the back half? Do we want to save that? Or
No, you can go into it.
Like, listen, I think the Fairchild thing warrants some criticism. He did look back a little bit there. I think he looked back over his right shoulder. I watched the play like 9 to 10 times just to try to get a feel for it because I knew that it was going to be a hot topic of conversation. I know everybody on X is kind of crushing him. I don't see anyone defending him, so here I go defending him. I don't know how much in regards to that actually affected the play. As far as him not breaking on contact, some people are suggesting he didn't know how many outs there are. That's a lie. As soon as the ball was hit, he started to run. And then I had some people send some screenshots of Elly De La Cruz's jump off of first base and his jump off of second base. It's like, yo, bro, did you see the not only that, did you see the first baseman and where he was positioned? They had him shifted over to where you shift him sometimes towards second base. Elly De La Cruz is going to get a much, much bigger lead than what they're going to allow Fairchild to get on second base. Second of all, the ball wasn't hit all that hard, and it was very short. And you have, like, the third base coach is the next guy to blame. Like, always got to find somebody to blame. You have to send a guy there. It's 2 outs. You're like, let's just say, for instance, like, pick an unbelievable hitter. I don't know, maybe like Joey Votto. Joey Votto comes to the plate next. He still has a less than a 50% chance of driving him home. So it's a 50-50 play at home plate. They make the play, and I don't want to say it is what it is, but it is what it is. And you know what? Fairchild, one of the faster guys on the team. And are we going to, I guess my next question would be, Are we gonna get on the Brewers case? Do you think the Brewers fans right now are complaining about how in the world do you let Elly De La Cruz score from second base on a failed pickoff attempt? Are they talking about that? No, they're talking about how great their team is right now and how unbelievable a game it was. Because why? When you win, you forget about things. And right now we're harping on all the smallest crap. It's like we just need to make a couple better plays, yes, but it's not one guy. And again, Stuart Fairchild's not standing on second base if he wasn't fast. Period. And I'm not trying to defend everybody and say everything's great all the time. I'm not. You know, if you watch a show enough, you know I'm not that guy. But I just don't I don't buy into the thing that it's Fairchild's fault. It's like, as far as him peeking around third base too, Nick, like, I think what he was trying to do was trying to get an idea of, like, you know, essentially maybe where the play was. And I guess you could argue that you don't need to do that. You could look for the guy behind the plate and all that, but it's just natural instincts. And these guys are human. Sometimes they might make a slight mistake. And again, I'm not totally convinced that it slowed him down in any way. And no one can actually prove that one way or the other. But that's here nor there. I'm sure I'm pissing a lot of people off by saying that. But if you want me to be authentic and real, that's how I kind of feel about the play. They made a good play, Nick. It sucks. They made a good play. You know what sucks? You know what sucks for Brewers fans? What about Will Benson the other night when he threw a guy out at home? Was it third base runner's fault?
Yeah, if TJ Friedel throws out the runner at center field, no one's talking about what the decision was. The only thing maybe, like, Stuart Fairchild probably should have ran over the catcher because the catcher was in the lane. I know you're almost like trained not to do that because of how the rule changes are. But if he's in the way, as far as if I understand the rule, you're allowed to barrel him over. So he probably should have barreled over the catcher. That's maybe the only thing differently that he would have done, but he was running hard. I watched that replay like 5 times, and I was like, "What?" I don't know what everyone was talking about, and there wasn't a great angle, at least the one that I saw. It was already after the ball was into the outfield before you even really saw Fairchild, so I didn't see his first exact instinct, his first exact move, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess he probably should have barreled over the runner, but again, they're so trained like not to do that because of the rule change, and you don't want to be the guy that hurts a catcher after, you know, so much of a big deal has been made over that. But that's probably the only thing you should have done differently.
Yeah, I'll say this. If we want to get mad at anything, let's get into the whole situation of another big situation. It just seems to always find him. And you know what? Give him credit because he found a way to get a hit. But by God, if there's a big spot, you might as well count. Don't even watch the game. You know Santiago Espinal is going to find his 170 hitting tail. I'm trying to keep it a kid show on a nice Father's Day. But if it's a big spot, we'll trot out old Espinal. He's got it. 170, probably slugging a $197. But anyways, maybe it looked like the 9-year-olds in the Little League when they come up to the plate for those poor guys, they bring everybody in. Maybe that's what we should be mad about. It's because Santiago Espinal swings with his purse, and they basically bring everybody in within 200 feet of home plate, and that's why he threw him out. So I don't. Candelario gets taken out of the game for a pinch runner with 1 out. Is that on the back half of the rundown?
No, I don't know. There was a lot in this game. You're not really expecting that Candelario's spot's going to come back up in the next inning. You pinch ran for him in the 8th. I guess I'm a little bit more curious though. Is there that big of a? I mean, actually, StatCast says Candelario is a faster runner.
No, it's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's not like we brought in Hurtubise. No disrespect, but
yeah, if it would have been like Hurtubise, I would have said, nah, this is really silly to even, look, you were down runs, you're trying to come back. You got to do whatever you can to try to come back. I don't know if I see the trade-off there. Now, Espinal did actually make a really nice play, robbed a hit in the bottom of the 8th. So, I mean, who knows if that would have changed anything. But yeah, I mean, that might be worth questioning. I'm not sure I see the upside there with Espinal versus Candelario on the base paths.
Well, I think did I forget something here? Hold on. What Hurtubise was on the base pass? Yeah.
Oh, did Hurtubise pinch run?
Yes.
Oh, then they brought in
correct.
Espinal. Okay.
Hurtubise pinch ran, and they didn't steal him or anything. And this is me.
It was a fielder's choice. Yeah.
Yes, and my thing is like, you pinch run a guy on first base. I can get behind pinch running a guy on second base, but on first base, especially if you're not going to move him, I don't know. Especially with 1 out too. But again, we're sitting here and we're debating things that are very, very, I don't want to say minuscule, because minuscule things are a bunch of small things lead to big things. I'm having a really hard time with this because I think the Reds played relatively well. I'm the guy that always continues to say, in order to do things that you haven't done before, you got to do things that you haven't done, which is beat the Brewers. If this team wants to find a way to get to the postseason, they're going to have to play better against divisional opponents. I'll leave it at that. But the Brewers specifically, if you're trying to win the division. Now, I personally, maybe I'm a quitter, maybe I'm a loser, Nick. Maybe I'm a guy that's not a competitor. Now, I would say I wouldn't feel this way if I was on the team, but as a fan, I've kind of punted on the division personally. I just don't see how in the world you climb that mountain, and maybe I'm being a sore loser. But I do understand that every game matters, and certainly for the wild card, just like last year, it's going to come down to the last week more than likely. Unless something crazy happens that last week, there's going to be probably 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 teams that have a chance to get themselves into the postseason. But I'm having a hard time trying to convince myself of whether or not this is just what happens when you play against teams that are better than you. And I'm not trying to be rude, but that's just kind of how I feel.
I think the only way you win the division is if the Brewers just kind of have somewhat of a collapse. I mean, I think it would be more about the Brewers than necessarily the Reds taking it. I don't see the Reds playing well enough that if the Brewers play well, that they're going to catch them and win the division.
I would also say Yelich bunting, that was a big play.
Yeah, I did not see that one coming.
Great bunt. I mean, they're winning plays, man.
I got the sequence in front of me here, kind of to walk through it here. So Ellie homered, that made it a 1-run game. Candelario singled, and then Candelario was the tying run, or would have been the tying run.
Was.
So you're in the 8th inning.
1 out,
No one out.
Nobody out. Damn.
Nobody out. So you are doing everything you can to try to tie the game, and you're not expecting Candelario's spot to come back up in the 9th inning. So Spencer Steers the next batter up. Hurtubise pinch runs for him. First 2 pitches were balls. So Hurtubise may have been thinking about running, but then the 2-0 pitch is what Steers swung at, hit it into the ground, and they got the force out. So they may have been trying to run with Hurtubise, just the way that at bat played out, there really wasn't a good chance because you probably didn't want Hurtubise to run on a 2-0 count.
Right.
Maybe he would have run if it was a 1-1 count or something like that. Just unfortunately, Steer hit the ball into the ground and negated your pinch runner. So again, looking at the sequence, I can't really be mad at that. I mean, I always say you want to do everything you can to try to tie or win the game. You worry about what happens later for the most part. I would say that with pinch hitters. I'm not going to save my pinch hitter for maybe a potential at bat in the 9th inning. I'm going to use him if I have a good matchup to try to tie or to take the lead.
Yeah, and listen, I know people don't love this all the time, but if you're just talking about what you deserved and what you don't deserve, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of the top 10 hardest balls hit of the game. The Reds held 8 of them, excuse me. So 8 of 10. And then there's a lot of Reds sprinkled throughout. It's not like the rest are a bunch of Brewers. It's not. So I don't know. The fact of the matter is it's frustrating because we've done this multiple times this season, Nick, where you win the first game and it's such a big win and you can't close, man. You just can't close. You can't find a way to win one of the next 2, and you leave town, feeling relatively demoralized. And at some point, they're going to have to continue to find a way to close these series out, because if they don't, then it is what it is. They're not going to find a way to get to the postseason. And I know ultimately that's the goal, and that's what should be the goal. For a franchise and an organization that during the offseason touted that their goal was to win the division, it's hard to continue to convince ourselves that just playing teams tough is good enough. And unfortunately, it's what we have to believe now, because there's really no turning back. You can't put toothpaste back in the tube, I think is what the saying is that some people say, but never really understood that. Kind of seemed dumb, but I figured I'd use it. All right, you talk about Ellie. Ellie manufactured some runs today, and his speed is lethal. His speed is it's a game changer. And I think, again, I've said this to you before, I'll say it again. I think that it's and honestly one of the reasons why people probably become so frustrated with Ellie with his strikeout rate is because when you see him get on base or you see him put the ball in play, good things 95% of the time happen.
Yeah, Ellie had a really big weekend offensively. 4 for 10, 3 walks, a homer, and 2 triples against the Brewers. So I mean that's very encouraging. Offensively, he had one of his probably better weekends, especially when you factor in some of the pitching that he faced this weekend. Just a big weekend for Ellie De La Cruz. You hope now that you're going to face outside of Paul Skeens tomorrow, which we'll talk about coming up. Right. You're going to face some more favorable pitching matchups. Here over the next couple of weeks. Kind of hope that Ellie De La Cruz could really, kind of get hot, because if you have Ellie De La Cruz, hot, and you have Jeimer Candelario and Spencer Steers now, hit a big home run today. Hey, that the offense could maybe, actually have one of these really good runs, where they're maybe able to help, carry the team a little bit. So that's kind of what you hope to see out of Ellie.
I love that. Ned Flanders. I love that. I appreciated that. We needed that, by the way. We'll get to that in just a minute here as we do our mid show discussion. All right, let's do the 88 pitches and Frankie Montas. I guess we go there next, because that's the next thing that people want to blame is obviously David Bell, and I think David Bell's to blame a little bit. But again, is there ever a perfect kind of method to the madness? I think the most fair and honest argument to be had right now, Nick, is this, and I'll pose it to you, and I'll kind of stay out of the way, because I guess I don't have a huge opinion one way or the other about it. You got a guy that you spent money on this year, Nick. You got him for one season, basically, and for all intents and purposes, he was throwing the ball well. Again, Yelich has a great at bat. It's not like Montas just walked him on 4 straight pitches. Has a great at bat. and you decide that you're going to go and pull him with 88. You bring in Lucas Sims. We know what happens after that. And I guess my question is that a lack of faith? Is that a lack of, I guess, of consistency from Montas to be able to say that, he's been hurt, obviously, or taken some time off, or been hurt? I don't know what you want to call it. He's been hurt earlier this season, to where they don't want to push him too far too soon? Or is it just he thought that was the right move today, and you take Montas out with 88, only giving up 1 run so far, and you bring in the bullpen to try to close it out, which would have been a long, there was still a lot of game left when he brought in Lucas Sims.
Yeah, I mean, look, Lucas Sims has better numbers than Frankie Montas has, coming into the game. He has a lower ERA. I mean, pitch by pitch, you would expect that Lucas Sims is probably a better pitcher. That was a 9-pitch at bat to Christian Yelich, which, it's a good point that, it's not like Frankie had a terrible at bat against Yelich. Yelich just worked a walk, but that was a very long, lengthy at bat. And, you probably are like, yeah, Montas is probably frustrated after, that walk got away. Let's bring in a fresh arm here to face Adames. And it backfired. Frankie Montas only got 4 batters out his last start. So it's Montas, to his credit, I mean, he pitched very well today. 2 of the more interesting starts, like a really good start against the Brewers, really good start against the Rockies in Coors Field, and that start in the Cubs kind of sandwiched in between. It's been a roller coaster of a year for Frankie Montas, but I don't know, 3rd time through the order, 3rd time facing these hitters, I'm always going to lean towards you probably made the right move going to your bullpen and not letting Adames, face Montas for a 3rd time.
Yeah, and listen, I think that there's a lot of people that are going to ask, and they're going to ask the question of why Sims. At some point, you have to use your whole bullpen. You do, and they got to come through for you. Would we feel better if Fernando Cruz came in the game and he gave up the home run? Like, I guess we would probably feel better, because we'd assume that our best was out there and we can live with losing with our best. But we all can admit that over 162 games, Lucas Sims is going to have to throw in some high leverage situations. And I'm not trying to be like overly crude when I say this, but that's not a high leverage situation. Like he's coming into a baseball game, yes, with a lead and there's runners on base, and I get all that. But again, this isn't like the 8th, this isn't the 7th or the 8th inning. Like we still have a ton of more outs to get. I'm not going to sit here and say that you can never use Lucas Sims. You have to use him. And I guess my question to you, Nick, is like, the perfect case in point that you've said already is what I would continue to say to people is like, do we not remember what happened last year? Like, one of the main criticisms of David Bell last season was at the end of the season, people said what? They said that he burnt the bullpen to the ground. These guys threw way too many innings, and ultimately, at some point, it's going to run its course, and it's just like a good boxer in a boxing match. If you continue to deliver body blows, that might not look like a big deal early in the year or early in the rounds of a fight, but towards the end of the fight, it's quite noticeable who's been landing the body blows. I would say the same thing with David Bell in this situation with the bullpen. If we continue to run out the same guys every single high leverage situation, and I know we all know who that is. It's literally one guy that we always ask for, and it's Fernando Cruz. And by God, he's been unbelievable. And trust me, if my life was on the line and I needed 3 outs out of this bullpen, we all would probably pick Fernando Cruz. But we can't continue to ask for him to be the only guy that can do it. And I will tell you, you can't always judge everything off of results. Now, I know that that's what we all do because we're fans. But my point is like, go back and watch that pitch. Just do that, and you'll feel a little bit better. You should, because if you know anything about ball, you'll know that's a damn good pitch, man. I don't know if they knew that he was going to throw that pitch off the rip. I don't know if he has a tendency to throw that pitch off the rip. I'm not sure why in the world he even swung at that pitch, quite frankly, because if I was a Brewers fan and he threw that pitch and he didn't get a hit, I'd be like, why are you swinging on a first pitch, perfectly located breaking ball at the bottom of the zone? But you know what? He hit it. He hit it out of the park. I give him all the credit. And I'm not trying to, throw Sims a life raft here. But I genuinely mean when I watch the game, when I watch the replay, it was a good pitch. And I'm going to stand by that, Nick. I'm not going to get all that critical about Lucas Sims.
Yeah, with Sims, I'm more concerned about the walks because that's kind of been a trend for him the last couple years. It's been a strange year for Sims. He's already given up 6 home runs. He only gave up 5 all of last year in 61 innings. So I hope that's more of just a weird sample and that's not something that's going to become a trend. But Sims has never really in his career struggled since he got moved to a reliever with giving up the long ball. He's had every single year as a reliever, he's been above average in not giving up home runs. So I hope that's more of just a weird start to the year for Sims. He's able to kind of get past that. But look, if he continues to give up home runs, that's one of the things that makes him most valuable is that he does not give up home runs. That's what's really kind of helped him balance out the fact that he walks a lot of guys. Is the fact that he doesn't give up home runs. He doesn't, hurt himself. So it's something to watch with Sims, but you have to use all of these guys. I think they've used Fernando Cruz too much already. If you want to give him a criticism, I would say maybe they used Cruz too much to where they felt like they didn't want to throw him out the first time today. But again, you still had to get 12 outs today, and you had already got, don't you want to use Cruz where he could be part of maybe the Yelich, part of the top of the order, as opposed to Adames and then the bottom of the order? Because after Adames isn't really the heart of the Brewers lineup, right? I mean, you want Cruz to be facing, probably Contreras, Yelich, and Adames. You want him to go through maybe all 3 of those guys in a spot if you're going to use him and use a bullet from him.
Yeah, I agree. And my biggest thing is like it's just like it's just easy to sit here and I think after a loss and be frustrated by the fact that Lucas Sims gave up a home run and you thought that Lucas Sims wasn't the guy. And I agree with that. The chat's like, well, who would you rather face, Cruz or Sims? Cruz or Sims? Like, I get it. Yeah, I know they would rather face Sims. But is that our only option ever? Like, every single time the Reds are in a pinch, that's who we have to throw? Every time? And so we just going to throw Cruz like 300 innings this year? So at some point, someone else on the roster in the bullpen has to get guys out. And you know what I would say? They get guys out a hell of a lot. The Reds, I mean, they scored 4 runs today. And I'm not here to sit here to suggest that like we continue to blame the offense. The Reds offense today, we haven't said one word about it. No one in the chat has said anything about it. Yes, they hit some balls hard. They were 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. 1 for 8. And the one hit that they got, Nick, it didn't matter. It got thrown out at the plate. That's part of the game too. Last time I checked, your offense can score 7 runs in a game. Now, I'm not saying they need to do it all the time, but it's like we just sit here and every single game that we lose that I thought, put it this way, of all of the games we want to get mad about, I just don't think that this is one that's really, really high on the list. Should we have won the game? It feels that way, yeah. But I would tell you, if you watch the Brewers play every single game all year long, I bet you would start to think to yourself, wow, the Brewers, they just find ways to win games like this. You think last year, Nick, when we went on our run and we had all these young guys and we were stealing bases all over the place, you don't think teams were like, we should build our team around like the Reds. They just steal every bag on us. They find ways to manufacture runs every inning. Yeah, they probably do, but it's not that easy to do because we don't have, another thing that we don't have that I would say that the Brewers have is they make defensive plays look relatively easy. And that matters too. And I'm not saying that was the reason the Reds lost today, but my whole point is like it feels as if we got beat, in my opinion, by a better baseball team today that made better plays in convenient times. Does it mean that they should have won? No. But I'm going to give them credit because Christian Yelich had a great at-bat, and Christian Yelich walked when he could have struck out. Instead, that made them make the decision that made David Bell maybe make the wrong choice. It required them to bring in Lucas Sims or have to make the decision to bring in Lucas Sims. Are we going to just gloss over the fact that Christian Yelich laid down a perfect bunt? Because if he pops that bunt up, all of a sudden, we're probably having a different conversation. If old Perkins boy the other night doesn't have a brain fart and he decides not to bunt one in the air, are we ripping David Bell because, or are we firing Alexis Diaz because he gave up a blown save? Probably. If Will Benson doesn't make a perfect throw, again, these are like all things I'm trying to bring up to the floor table. All I'm saying at the end of the day is this: if you feel like this Reds team is disappointing you now, then I don't know if you watched the last 3 weeks before this past week, I should say, because this team is light years ahead of what that team used to be, and I'm excited and I'm hopeful that if they continue to play this way, good things are going to happen. Period. End of rant.
Yeah, and let's also not forget Lucas Sims at a 2.04 ERA since April 19th. I mean, he's pitched pretty well for over 2 months. He had only allowed 1 home run in his last 16 appearances coming into this game. So really, Lucas Sims had a really bad stretch in early April. He gave up 2 runs to the White Sox, gave up 3 runs to the Mariners. I think he also he gave up a 2 or 3 run home run to the Cubs. It was kind of a really big spot. So was that the rain game? I think he might have given up he gave up a home run in the Hunter Green monsoon game. And so I think it's been a couple really brutal spots that he's kind of given up these big home runs. I personally am not someone who goes, yeah, that means he's not clutch or whatever. I think it just kind of happened at really inopportune times. I put more stock in the overall numbers. But again, I'm concerned with Lucas Sims' walk rate. That continues to be concerned with him. But overall, he's pitched pretty well for over 2 months. And again, if the Reds don't have guys like Lucas Sims and Alexis Diaz step up for them this season, it doesn't matter how good Fernando Cruz is going to be.
I'm in the middle of trying to figure out a way to do something. I don't know if this will work or not. I think I got it. I'm going to go for it. We'll see. I'm going to try to do it on the back half of this rundown if I can. I'm going to love this because from now on, I'm going to use it when people tell me that the pitches were hung. If you think that Lucas Sims hung this pitch, then I got something to show you. We'll get to that in just a minute. All right. Before we get to that, Nick, I want you to tell everybody about the beautiful app, really, the beautiful app. It's one of the most beautiful apps of basically any app I've ever opened. I don't know if you've opened a lot of apps. I've opened a good amount of apps on my phone. The Game Time app, it's sleek. It's nice. Tell everybody why they should use it.
Yeah, my wife always comes in and closes 4,000 apps that I have open for me.
There you go.
As I'm a serial app leave opener kind of guy. But the Game Time app is an app that you want to have open because it's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. That makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They have all-in pricing. You can toggle this feature, and it shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CINCY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CINCY, CINCY, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Muted.
As always, we have 988. I know on a day like today, maybe you're feeling, listen, I know one thing. Holidays sometimes are the opposite effect of some people. I just want to get that out there. No, we're not. Some people aren't naive to that. If Father's Day is a tough day for you, for whatever reason that may be, and you need to use the resources, mantherapy.org or 988, please text or call. All right, I did find something. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this smoothly or not smoothly. We'll find out, okay? But here's my thing, All right, if we're gonna sit here, and we're gonna act like this pitch right here, this pitch. All right, now I don't know if they're gonna let me move around. That pitch is hung. Like this pitch is hung. I'm sorry, but it's not. That's not hung. All right. Now listen, if it lands like up here somewhere in the middle of the zone, cool. But it's okay if the other team just makes a better play than you. That's all I'm getting at. And that's what happened. So it's like if you think other people, like when Joey Votto would fight off like 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 pitches and then slap a single into left field or rip a double down the line, that they'd be like, I can't believe Jay Johnson couldn't get Votto out on that pitch. He's terrible. Or maybe it's just Joey Votto's an animal. Food for thought. All right, Spencer Steer goes deep. You think that's a big deal? I'm gonna say I don't think it's a big deal. I'm gonna get out ahead of it and say that I need to see more from Spencer Steer, but you're excited about it.
Well, yeah, I'm excited. Anytime a Reds player goes deep, Trace.
That's fair.
How are you not excited about Spencer
I just need to see more. I need to see more. I need to see more. Spencer, outside of obviously getting really, really hot at the beginning of the year, I don't know. Has been a little bit of disappointment if we're being honest.
Good to see him hit a home run off a right-handed pitcher. I think like Will Benson gets this rap as a guy that every time he gets a hit off a lefty, we're like, oh wow, a hit off a lefty, and there's a good reason for that. Don't get me wrong. But Spencer Steer kind of doesn't really get it the other way. Like his splits are pretty rough this season against right-handed pitching. I think last year he had like a 780 OPS, and I think a lot of people thought, oh, he's a bona fide. He'll be able to hit, righties, lefties. But if you kind of look through, and I did try to caution people on this, if you look kind of through some of his minor league splits, almost all of his production value came against lefties throughout the minors. So I think Spencer's just got to be better against right-handed pitcher, especially if he's going to bat cleanup. The Reds were batting him 7th on opening day against right-handed pitchers. I think they were batting him 2nd at the beginning of the year against lefties. Yep. I think people were up in arms about that, but I think the Reds saw this coming a lot more. I think right now they have Spear batting cleanup more out of, I don't know why they haven't batting second. I mean, I know they want Benson at the bottom of the lineup. They want Indy at the bottom of the lineup because I think they felt like moving them down helped them get more comfortable or whatever not. Yeah. But I'm not sure Spencer Steer's the guy I really actually want batting cleanup against right-handed pitching.
Yeah, I don't know if we overshot our expectations of Spencer. Maybe slightly. We'll find out. I don't know. He could get hot for the rest of the year and end up having an unbelievable season. But boy, he got off to a great start. And it felt like, man, this guy was not a fluke. He's the real deal. And then obviously he kind of fell off quite significantly. And it was nice to see Ellie obviously have a big weekend because more or less Ellie was also kind of I don't want to say he just was struggling a little bit for a good part of a month and a half, at least at the plate. I think his speed, though, kind of hides some of that, if we're being honest. But that's here nor there. This is about Spencer Steer. Run into some supers here really quickly. Ned Flanders wanted to let everybody know that Santiago Espinal, clutch.
CLUTCH.
Clutch. Ned, that made me laugh. I did appreciate that. Ned also chimes in. He says, sweep the Pirates and all is well. Doable. Where do I get my Spires jersey? I'm not sure. You'd have to go you're gonna have to get that custom made at the ballpark probably. That's like back in the day. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I was an Encarnacion stan. I did like Encarnacion. I believed in Encarnacion, and then of course the Reds got rid of Encarnacion, and Encarnacion ended up doing what Encarnacion did. But I had to go to the ballpark to get an Encarnacion jersey. So yep, watched him stitch it right in front of me with the number 12 on it. So shout out to Edwin. All is not lost and forgotten in my eyes, what you did for the Reds. And by what you did, you showed glimpses of greatness in a lot of areas of improvement, and I'm glad that you found that out after you left. Matt Wells said, Reds need one more high-leverage relief arm. Do you think they will try Santillan or someone else? I can't ever say his name.
Santion.
Santillan. Why the fuck? Excuse my language, but why do I say that? Just how I
I
say
mean, hey,
things.
there's a till. There's a TIL in there.
Santillon.
Santion.
How about the fat guy that can throw balls over the plate? Is he fat still?
Is he fat? I don't.
Oh, he used to be fat. Let's not act like he wasn't. Come on. Or someone else. Is there another AAA arm worth trying? Maxwell is going to be the only other answer. Maxwell struggled a little bit, I know, recently, but what other answers do you have?
Yeah, I mean, Santion's been a little bit more hittable of late. He's fine. He's not on the 40-man roster, so that kind of makes it a little bit more challenging with him. Yasser Zuleta would be the guy because he's on the 40-man roster. He's pitched really well. He did give up a run today, but he has really, really good stuff. He would be the guy that I would consider. Maxwell's not ready. Maxwell is if you do not like Lucas Sims, you are not going to like Zach Maxwell right now. He's walking a lot of guys. He's had a few appearances at AAA where he's been all over the place, so he's not ready. They do have Alex Young still sitting down at AAA. He's obviously a guy that you would consider. I don't know. Casey Legamina.
Yes.
He's been the guy that's been absolutely dominant. He's got he's on like 8 in a row scoreless. He has like a .86 ERA since the end of April or something like that. It was on the podcast this morning, and it's on the minor league report on @Chatterbox Sports. But yeah, he would be a guy as well. But I don't know if I'd make a move right now. I do feel like there's several arms in this bullpen that are teetering, but I don't feel like there's necessarily anyone that's been bad enough that I say, yeah, I have to make a move. I don't know. Are you kind of in that boat?
I 100% agree, man. I look like you throw Lucas Sims down in AAA for a month and a half, 2 months. And let's see.
Well, you can't.
I'm just
You
no. My
can't.
point. Listen to me. My point is, let's come back and see what his numbers look like at AAA.
Yeah.
All right. Like.
Oh, yeah.
Like. Can Mike Ford be a little bit of a learning lesson for all of us? Maybe just a little bit of one. Like, hey, I was the first guy to yell, "Hey, we got to give Mike Ford a chance to at least see what he can do." And Mike Ford shown us what the difference is between AAA and the major leagues is. Okay. Legamina is a guy last year. I remember liking his stuff a lot. I thought that he threw the ball stuff-wise well. Now, his results weren't kind of they weren't a perfect duplicate of each other in regards to what I thought he looked like versus his results. So I can't guarantee that he'd come up here and do any better than Lucas Sims or whoever else you want to replace for that matter. But that's here nor there. Andrews, go ahead.
I was going to say, it reminds me a lot of Dari Moreta, who ironically is on the Pirates, but he's hurt. And he actually had a really good year last year with the Pirates. But he had these incredible numbers at AAA. And every single night it was, the Reds are idiots for not calling this guy up. What are they doing? This guy's got like a sub 1.5 ERA or something at AAA for whatever. And he came up and he just got absolutely lit up. He had like a 5 ERA in 2022 with the Reds. After, what did he do? 2021. Yeah, 2021 at AAA had a 0.68 ERA, and you have to call him up. And then he came up, and it didn't translate.
I remember Maxwell also. Not that you're going to judge spring training debuts or spring training games off of what they can do against big league hitters, but I do remember Maxwell's outing against a couple. I'm just saying.
You're so salty because I was so high on this guy. I was like, hey, I really want to see him.
That's not true, Nick. Now you're lying. Now, no, all right, we'll tell the story. Why not? Nick's like, hey guys, we got to get some video of this guy. He's getting ready to throw. No one's ever seen him throw before, really. Name's Maxwell. He's gonna be. He's a guy that can be really good. He's throwing like 100 miles an hour down here. When I kid you not, this guy comes in the game and he's just giving up bombs. I mean, he probably gave up 7 runs in that inning. He gave up. He gave up 3? What was all 3 home runs? I don't know. Regardless, he got absolutely. I can't even say what I want to say because it's a kid show. But he got taken to the woodshed. All right, Andrew Seiler said, should we be scared of Skeens and the Pirates? Do you think this offense can handle Skeens? Also, how are we feeling about Spires? I feel great about Spires. Am I scared of Skeens? No. I'm not scared of Skeens. Skeens is also a guy that I think will come back down to earth a little bit. As far as like if he's on, he's going to be tough. That's what I would say. But he's also a rookie. He's going to be due to have some rookie moments, and I'm just hoping those come against the Reds. You scared of him?
Yeah, I mean, at some point he is, I think, going to come back down to earth. Now, is that going to be tomorrow night? Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
he's an incredible talent. I'm excited for this opportunity for Carson Spires. This is a really just and I'm going to repeat this because I want it to be in the podcast tomorrow. So I'm not going to put this part in, but it's an undrafted free agent up against the number 1 pick. So you know that Spires is going to be motivated. This game's also on national TV. It's on Fox Sports 1. And just because Skeens is pitching, there'll be a lot more people tuning into a Reds Pirates tilt on a Monday night than you might normally expect. This is a really cool opportunity for Spires, who's pitched well at not only the majors in the bullpen, but he dominated at AAA as well.
I like it. It's on national TV. I like that. I also like the idea that Skeens is due for a bad outing. I think he's due for a bad outing. I don't know if we'll get one, but it feels like it's coming soon. Just saying. It's coming soon. All right. John says, lefty after righty pitching Mole first, then Sims may have worked better. Frankie and Sims, too similar. Stu has been great in the outfield and versus lefties. So I think John is basically back to the 6th inning situation.
I think Adames does have career reverse splits to John's point. Yeah, Adames actually has a 708 career OPS against left-handed pitchers and a 780 against right-handed pitchers. So I think that might have been what he was talking about.
Yep.
So I don't know.
I mean, it's if anything doesn't go right, we're always going to hindsight kind of question whether it was the right decision or not the right decision. Even if you're not put it this way, even if you're a person that sometimes in real time thinks it's a bad decision, I'll openly admit there are times where I don't use the hindsight game. I'm like, hey, David Bell should take this guy out, or David Bell should leave this guy in. And if they don't take them out or they do leave them in, which is opposite of what I believe, and it goes right or nothing happens, then nobody ever talks about it. So it's kind of like it's hard to play that game. And listen, I'm not here to say that he's perfect. David Bell is not perfect. I think if there's anything that at some point, David Bell is going to be responsible for the fact that this club is either going to find ways to win games over a long period of time or not. I thought, and it sucks this isn't the case, but I thought this was going to be the first year where I thought it would be more than fair to judge David Bell if this Reds team did not make the postseason. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but I think they're reasonable to say without Matt McClain, without TJ Friedel for some time, without CES, without Noelve Marte, that changes things a little bit. It just does. And I'm not, again, trying to defend David Bell, who mumbles in every interview. And hopefully he's not like that in the clubhouse, because if he is, he'd be really boring and nobody would probably like him. But the players seem to like him, so maybe he doesn't mumble all the time. All right, that's it for the Supers. Playoff system. Are you going to go where I think you're going to go, which is that it's really great for teams like the Reds that are 3 games below 500, have no chance to probably win the division, but here we are and we still have a puncher's chance. Did I nail that or no?
Let me let's frame this better.
Flush this out.
So Trace, there's been a lot of recent talk about how MLB playoff system, about how there's so many teams in the NL wildcard race and how it's terrible for the state of baseball. There's been some folks that have decided to take that side. What do you think about the current playoff system and so many teams being in the race?
I think it's baseball's only option to give the poor teams a chance. And by poor teams, I guess we'll just call them mid markets or small markets, whatever term you'd like to use to make yourself feel better. That's all good and well. But I know one thing. All the teams that spend a quite significant amount of money, and for right reasons, by the way. This isn't about our ownership group being cheap or the Pirates being cheap or whoever else being cheap. You go ahead and use whatever other floundering team you want to make you feel better. If you want to say, oh, look at the Brewers. They spend the same amount of money as the Reds. Why can't we be the Brewers? Well, that used to be the Rays. No one's talking about the Rays anymore. And by the way, what have the Rays ever won? They've never won a damn thing. Now, I know they've won a lot of baseball games, but they never actually won the thing that only everyone cares about, right? Like, have you ever heard anyone be like, hey, back in the 90s, look at how many games the Braves won? No, they'll point to maybe the World Series championship they won. So, in my opinion, this is baseball's version of trying to find either a salary cap or a luxury tax that really doesn't work anyways, or some kind of cap system that makes there being somewhat of an equal playing field. Because the one thing that everyone always says about baseball is that if you get into the postseason, Nick, you got a chance. Doesn't matter if you won 120 games or you won 90 games or you won 83 games. You could get hot. Look at the Diamondbacks. By the way, I don't mean to remind you, the Diamondbacks, they didn't win anything. I mean, they won the NL pennant, which is cool. They made the World Series, but they didn't actually win the World Series. The Rangers, the team that spent all the money, they won the World Series. Now, I'm not here to sit here and argue that that you can't win a World Series being a small market team. It's very doable and possible, but I'm never going to give this league any semblance of credit for making it a semi-equitable situation, because it's not. And the reality is, if you're somebody that's like, well, if you want to own a major league team, you should just be a philanthropist and basically just lose money on purpose, which I guess if you're rich enough and you love baseball enough, you can do that. But I also know, to be fair to the Castellinis a little bit, they don't have enough money to go out and even try to entertain the ideas of getting the guys like Ohtani or anyone else for that matter. So, yeah, am I frustrated by the way that MLB is right now and the dynamics of it? All I'm asking for is maybe that they re-sign Ellie De La Cruz, a guy they went into the Dominican Republic, Nick, and they found on their own. They gave, $60,000 to sign this guy because no one else even knew who he was and nor cared. Now, all of a sudden, since he's going to make the major leagues, we're going to fight through what is going to be probably 2 or 3 seasons of him being young, just to have 2 or 3 seasons of him being arbitration eligible, to then have to go fight against these guys that have unbelievable markets, unbelievable amounts of money to fight for the same guy. It's not fair. It's dumb. The whole system's stupid. So you know what, Nick? At the end of the day, that's my long-winded way of saying you have to have this in order to keep people like us entertained. Because if not, it would just be very rare a small market team would even have a semblance of a chance. You like that answer?
I love it. Yeah, I mean, look, if we can all agree. I mean, we all wish the Reds spent more. I'm sure Pittsburgh Pirates fans wish they spent more. I'm sure, go down the list of the teams that are in the bottom half of spending. But the reality is they don't also at the same time have the same revenue coming in as the teams like the Dodgers do. You can want them to spend more and also rationally realize that there is a massive gap between the amount of revenue that they have. And the extra playoffs gives more teams a chance. It evens the playing field some, because we do know that the playoffs are a massive crapshoot. But this whole notion of oh my gosh, it's so terrible for the sport that so many teams are competing for playoff spots, it's just absolute nonsense. MLB had a record weekend in attendance, or a record day on Saturday. People are excited that their teams are in a playoff race. If you have that outlook, I don't know why the hell you watch this sport. Just go do something else with your time, because it's just wild to me. But even still, though, the Cardinals right now have the second wild card spot. They hold that spot. The playoff system was that way from 2011 until 2022. The Reds would still only be a game and a half out of that spot. That team still got into the playoffs before that. And even if you want to go before that, 1995 to 2010, the Braves currently hold that spot. The Reds would still only be 5 games back. So it's not like they're, oh my gosh, they're so much closer because of the current system. That's also just part of the way this year has shaken out in baseball. And it's mainly shaken out. You know why it's shaken out? Because really in the National League, there's not a true team that's tanking. And that's what we all wanted, right? The Nationals were maybe the only team in the National League that going into the season you said, oh, that team's probably tanking. Now, they've actually played pretty well. They're only one game below 500.
As evidenced by signing Senzel and starting him on opening day, only for him to obviously get hurt.
Sure, but they're the only team that if you honestly take a look at, you go, what team it was really not trying to win? You'd say maybe the Nationals, but they've played well, so it's hard to even really keep that take. The Marlins now, I think, are tanking, but that was only because they got off to such a horrendous start, and they just said, well, we have no chance. They traded Luis Arraez. But the Rockies were trying. They just are not good at trying. But again, the reason that there's so many competitive teams is because everyone was trying this year, and ultimately, that's what we wanted to have happen.
I have no problem with the playoff system. The only thing I would have beef with if I loved I guess if I loved a team that was going to win 95 to 100 games, and I thought that they were above and beyond better than everybody, I personally think if you win the division, you shouldn't be eliminated unless you lose a 7-game series. So, I think that they should find a way to make those 5-gamers 7-gamers personally. And I know they can't extend the playoffs like too crazy long because of weather. Another thing that I don't really love in Major League Baseball is how late the season goes into. That's a debate for another day, but I would just say I would not mind there being more teams in the playoffs. And I even think that the NBA, of all things, didn't know we were going to go down this path tonight, but I think the NBA did something that was really cool that works, which is they kind of have that like play-in game where the higher seed essentially would have to lose 2 games in a row, if you want to call it that, in order to get knocked out of the traditional postseason. What it does is it makes the regular season maybe a little less meaningful per se for a lot of teams, but it definitely keeps more teams interested and in the hunt and in the fight. And I think a perfect example of that will be this year in college football to round out my full-fledged sports take here, which is everyone wants to talk about how watered down the regular season gets. Well, how watered down is the regular season for the vast majority of teams if there's only a couple teams that are going to make the postseason when you can kind of see who it is now? I mean, that's the truth. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, for these leagues, they need to keep more teams entertained, and it's 100%. There's only one reason the NFL is so popular, in my opinion. You could say football, whatever, Sundays, all this. It's because they have a league where every single damn team, their fan base actually thinks that they have a chance going into the season. And you can say whatever you want about Major League Baseball and the NBA, but the truth is, if you actually really looked yourself in the mirror, we know that that's not really the truth for the vast majority of the teams in the league. The playoff system, at least it shines a light and gives them a chance to have something to hope for. So I have no problem with it.
I agree with that to a degree, but I actually think this year was a rare example where in the National League, 13 out of the 15 teams, their fan bases probably thought they had a legit chance this year. So I think somehow, and this may be a complete anomaly,
right.
You know, we might go next year and be like, going there, yeah, this team's out of it. But really, the Nationals and the Rockies are the only 2 teams that I bet if you ask the majority of the other teams' fan base, do you think your team has any chance of making the playoffs? I think almost every single one of them be like, yeah, I think we got a chance this year. I mean, you know, you look at the Pirates, they have the same record as the Reds right now. We said going into the year, we thought any of the 5 teams could win the NL Central. And I think all 5 fan bases thought they probably could, but all 5 still could reach the playoffs. And I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean,
if you had a great team, you wouldn't feel as good about it, but that's us.
Yeah, but screw them.
I'm just saying, Nick, like, okay, I'm going to paint a perfect picture to be fair. If the Reds were ran a really well-oiled organization, and they were winning 90-plus games a year, and they were finding themselves in a position where they win the division, yeah? And then let's just say, for instance, you got this lowly team in the Cardinals who get in with 82 wins, and they win their little wild card series. And let's just say, just hypothetically speaking, you got to play a team, or pick any other team besides the Cardinals, because I don't know if the divisional opponent thing, I don't know if that actually equals up. I think you can play each other in a divisional round against divisional opponents, but you can't play a wild card. But that's here nor there. My point is that if you had to play a 3-game series or a 5-game series against a team with 15 or 20 less wins than you during the regular season, you would be pissed about it. And I think that that's a fair assessment from those teams. But the truth is that's not who we are right now, so we don't care about them.
And screw those teams. One of them signed Shohei Ohtani to $700 million deferred for the next after I'm dead.
Well, Shohei Ohtani, by the way, his cap hit or whatever you want to call it, the amount of money that he goes towards the luxury tax, just so we're all aware, is the same amount of money as Nick Senzel this year for the Nationals. So yeah, I'm with you.
And the other team that's 47-23, they have a platoon right fielder that can't play defense that's owed $100 million. That just chump changes them. They can just throw away.
Exactly, and that's what sucks about Major League Baseball. Could you imagine if the Reds made a decision to sign Castellanos and it ended up being the same type of, like, we've done it before. It's called not Hunter Green, excuse me. That's definitely not what I was trying to say. It's called Homer Bailey. No disrespect to Homer. And it's called Mike Moustakas. Didn't help us either. Maybe Ken Griffey Jr. Is that being rude?
Yeah, well, the Ken Griffey Jr. contract did not work out. I mean, I don't think
I just don't want to. I'm not trying
to blame anyone for that. I don't blame the Reds. They had to do it. You don't blame Ken Griffey Jr. It sucks. It didn't work out. Sometimes that happens.
I'm just saying though, like those things matter a lot, and unfortunately, it hurts teams like us significantly. And you got people like the Cubs who they can get a guy like Hayward, and who cares? It's not a big deal. Keep swinging and missing. All right. Reds MILB. Little Sunday night action. So hopefully Austin Hendricks had a I don't know what happened, but
I'm not going to bury the lead, Trace. I'm not going to bury the lead. All right, we'll start off with AAA, where the Louisville Bats continue to struggle. They lost 6-3 to St. Paul. Bats have lost 7 straight. And 11 out of 14, they are now 34-34. This was a team that was 31-22 at one point this season. Noelvi Marte, he was 0 for 4, but he did just miss a home run in both the 7th and 8th inning. Both were fouled on the left field line. If you'd like to see video of that, go to @CBox Sports on Twitter. Some random Twitter admin put that up for you. Blake Dunn was 1 for 4, hit a home run, his 5th of the season. His home run was hit 379 feet, had a 99.8 exit velocity, but he actually had a flyout that was hit much better, 413 feet, 104. Resigns 0 for 3 with a walk. Over on the pitching side, Alex Young did give up a run in an inning and a third, but he did strike out 3, didn't walk a batter. The run was a solo home run. Yasver Zuleta who's been pitching really well of late, did give up 2 hits and a run on Sunday, and then Tony Santillan gave up 2 hits but did not give up a run. Chattanooga, they lost 6-1 to Montgomery. Lookouts have lost 4 straight, and they fall to 17-46 on the season. That's a .270 win percentage. They have to be better than .390 to not have their worst record all time. Rare poor start for Julian Aguiar, a guy that me and Bryce were talking about on the podcast earlier this week. We called him the most consistent pitcher in the Reds minor leagues. Had a rough one in this. Gave up 13 hits and 5 earned runs. The 5 earned runs are the most this season. He hadn't allowed more than 3 in a start all year. 13 hits, a career high by a mile. His previous high was 10 all the way back in 2022 when he was with Daytona. Not a whole lot on the offensive side. Dominic Patelli, rare off day for him, 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. But Austin Hendricks, he did get a hit. Down at Dayton, they lost 4-2 to Great Lakes. Dragons fall below 500, 31-32. Cam Collier, 0 for 3 with the walk. Sal Stewart, 1 for 4. Hector Rodriguez, he extended his hit streak to 9 games. He was 1 for 4. Jay Allen was 0 for 3, but did walk and stole his 17th base of the year. And then Carlos Jorge finally starting to heat up. He had a tough start to the year, but he was 2 for 4, hit his 9th home run of the year. He's homered for a 2nd straight game, and he has 3 home runs in his last 6 games. Javi Rivera, he threw 3 shutout innings, just gave up 2 hits, no walks, and struck out 2. He was pulled after completing 3 innings and only 47 pitches. The Dragons broadcast did not know the reason why he was pulled. He did, however, throw 13 innings over his last 2 starts, and he's already gone past his total innings threshold from the year before. But Rivera has been absolutely dominant of late. He's got a 0.84 ERA over his last 6 starts, and get this, 41 strikeouts and just 7 walks in 32 and 2/3 innings pitched. And last but not least, Daytona, they fell 6-4 to Palm Beach in 10 innings. Tortugas fall to 30 and 33 on the season. Not a whole lot in this one offensively. Sammy Stafura 0 for 5. Ricardo Cabrera 0 for 4 with a walk. I think that's 4 straight games for Cabrera without a hit after having such an incredible start to the season. And your Laureano, he threw in this one, went an inning and 2/3. Didn't give up a hit, but did give up a run as he walked 3 batters, but did strike out 4. Laureano, he's got a 3.24 ERA, 50 strikeouts in 33 and 2/3 innings pitched.
That's your Reds MILB presented by Nick Kirby. All right, we have more baseball on the way, believe it or not. This was not the end of the season tonight. And by tonight, I mean today. So kind of hinted at this a lot during the show today, but who, what, when, where, and why? Nick.
All right, Reds will start a 3-game series against the Pittsburgh Pirates on Monday night. Monday's matchup, Carson Spires up against Paul Skeens. That'll be 6:40 start time. Tuesday, 6:40, Nick Lodolo up against Bailey Falter. Bailey Falter's having a nice year for the Pirates, 3-4, 3.86 ERA. And then Wednesday's a 12:35 start. It's a really sneaky, great pitching matchup. Hunter Green up against Mitch Keller. Mitch Keller's 8-4, 3.36 ERA. But Monday night's matchup, it'll be a big one. Paul Skeens going. He, of course, was the number 1 overall pick out of LSU last season. Currently the number 2 prospect in all of baseball, only behind Jackson Holiday. Skeens was a teammate of current Reds prospect Ty Floyd. He also had an epic matchup in the College World Series against Rhett Lauder when Lauder was at Wake Forest. Skeens started the year at AAA. Boy, was he dominant. 0.99 ERA in 7 starts at AAA Indianapolis. Skeens' only start against Louisville was actually his very first start ever at AAA. He threw 3 perfect innings with 5 strikeouts. Jacob Hurtubise actually led off the first batter that Skeens faced at AAA. Hurtubise did have a nice at-bat, but he struck out on 7 pitches. Skeens, a couple highlights this year. He threw 6 no-hit innings against the Cubs at Wrigley Field. Became the first Pirates player ever to strike out 11 batters at Wrigley Field and did so in just 6 innings. Skeens threw a career-high 103 pitches in 6 1/3 shutout innings his last start at the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Cardinals fans actually gave Skeens a standing ovation as he exited the game. Skeens was originally supposed to start on Sunday at Coors Field, but the Pirates decided to move him back to face the Cincinnati Reds. I already have a tweet in the draft. If that backfires, I would love to be able to hit send. Skeens relies on 5 pitches, a 4-seam fastball that is absolutely electric, almost always over 100 miles an hour. He has a split finger, a slider, curveball, and changeup. All right, for the Reds, Carson Spires. This will be a great matchup because Carson Spires was a non-drafted free agent signing of the Reds, of course, going up against the number 1 overall pick. This will be the first start in the big leagues this season for Spires. He's obviously been dominant in the bullpen, 2.33 ERA, and it hasn't been a fluke either, a 2.52 FIP. Spires was great down at AAA Louisville as well. He went 3-1 with a 2.51 ERA. Spires was used exclusively as a starter. Spires gave up 5 earned runs in his first start with the Bats, but he's been even more dominant since then. He actually has a 1.69 ERA in his last 42 2/3 innings down there, 46 strikeouts, and just 14 walks. Spires has never faced the Pirates or any active players on the roster in the big leagues. However, Spires did face the Pirates' AAA affiliate, Indianapolis, 3 times this season. That first was his actual first start where he gave up the 5 earned runs. But last 2 times he faced the Indianapolis Indians, 6 innings, no runs, 6 innings, no runs. Nick Gonzalez, who's been batting cleanup lately for the Pirates, was in the lineup on March 29th and March 7th. He went 2 for 5 with a homer and a strikeout.
All right, folks. We'll be back here. Better than ever tomorrow. Don't forget to tell a friend about the podcast. Please do that. Download it, rate it, review it. You know what the unique thing about podcasts is like theoretically, like plays aren't downloads, downloads aren't plays. It's really weird. I'm sure at some point down in the history of podcasts, in about 4 or 5 years, they're gonna look back and be like, why do they have to download them on their phone in order to count as a download? That's kind of dumb, but it's here nor there. I'm gonna tell you guys something. Sometimes I get intuition feelings, and I'm not saying I'm always right because I'm not, but my intuition has not failed me a whole lot in my life, and I got a good feeling about tomorrow. I got a feeling that Paul Skeens is going to get a reality check. I got a feeling that if you're thinking about betting on Paul Skeens, you might want to think otherwise because I think he's got something coming for him. I don't know if he's just going to walk the world. I don't know if he's going to run into some guys that are just going to run into some fastballs that he's about to throw, but I got news for you. This isn't the Reds team that was playing 3-4 weeks ago that was absolutely abysmal and awful. I'm not saying we should hang banners because we hung with teams or we played them tough. We're not doing that. But I will say, this team is playing much, much better. Playing closer to the team that we expected to have at the beginning of this season. And hopefully we just continue to hang around until we get the rest of the crew with us. And at that point, all that will really matter is how we play in 1 month. As always, we'll be back here better than ever tomorrow. We'll see you then. Go Reds.